Daily Words of God. Could the name of Jesus, God with us, represent God's disposition in its entirety? Could it fully articulate God? If man says that God can only be called Jesus and may not have any other name because God cannot change his disposition, these words are blasphemy indeed. Do you believe that the name Jesus, God with us, alone can represent God in his entirety? God may be called by many names, but among these many names, there is not one that is able to encapsulate all of God, not one that can fully represent God. And so, God has many names, but these many names cannot fully articulate God's disposition. For God's disposition is so rich that it simply exceeds man's capacity to know him. There is no way for man, using the language of mankind, to encapsulate God fully. Mankind has but a limited vocabulary with which to encapsulate all that they know of God's disposition: great, honored, wondrous, unfathomable, supreme, holy, righteous, wise, and so on. So many words. This limited vocabulary is incapable of describing the little that man has witnessed of God's disposition. Over time, many others added words that they thought better able to describe the fervor in their hearts. God is so great. God is so holy. God is so lovely. Today, human sayings such as these have reached their peak, yet man is still incapable of clearly expressing himself. And so, for man, God has many names, yet he has no one name, and this is because God's being is so bountiful and the language of man so impoverished. One particular word or name does not have the capacity to represent God in his entirety. So do you think his name can be fixed? God is so great and so holy, yet you will not permit him to change his name in each new age? Therefore, in every age in which God personally does his own work, he uses a name that befits the age in order to encapsulate the work that he intends to do. He uses this particular name, one that possesses temporal significance, to represent his disposition in that age. This is God using the language of mankind to express his own disposition. Even so, many people who have had spiritual experiences and have personally seen God nevertheless feel that this one particular name is incapable of representing God in his entirety. Alas, this cannot be helped. So man no longer addresses God by any name, but simply calls him God. It is as though the heart of man is full of love, and yet also beset with contradictions, for man does not know how to explain God. What God is so bountiful that there is simply no way to describe it. There is no single name that can summarize God's disposition, and there is no single name that can describe all that God has and is. If someone asks me, "Exactly what name do you use?" I will tell them, God is God. Is that not the best name for God? Is it not the best encapsulation of God's disposition? This being so, why do you spend so much effort seeking after the name of God? Why should you cudgel your brains, going without food and sleep, all for the sake of a name? The day will arrive when God is not called Jehovah, Jesus, or Messiah. He will simply be the Creator. At that time, all the names that he has taken on earth shall come to an end, for his work on earth will have come to an end, after which his names shall be no more. When all things come under the dominion of the Creator, what need has he of a highly appropriate yet incomplete name? Are you still seeking after God's name now? Do you still dare to say that God is only called Jehovah? Do you still dare to say that God can only be called Jesus? Are you able to bear the sin of blasphemy against God? You should know that God originally had no name. He only took on one or two or many names because he had work to do and had to manage mankind. Whatever name he is called by, did he not freely choose it himself? Would he need you, one of his creations, to decide it? The name by which God is called is a name that accords with what man is capable of apprehending, with the language of mankind. But this name is not something that man can encompass. You can only say that there is a God in heaven, that he is called God, that he is God himself with great power, who is so wise, so exalted, so wondrous, so mysterious, and so almighty. And then you can say no more. This little bit is all you can know. This being so, can the mere name of Jesus represent God himself? When the last days come, even though it is still God who does his work, his name has to change, for it is a different age.